Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Ice Cave Radio. Doa here along with Charmer as usual, and this is one of the most special of all weeks. Perhaps the most special week, Charmer, since the game launched, because we are on the verge of a new expansion launch. The first expansion, Shadows of the Galaxy, coming out for Star Wars Unlimited. Pre-release starts this weekend, and we're going to talk a lot about that. We're actually going to go through and build a sealed deck from a pre-release kit that we were sent by Fantasy Flight Games. But before all that, how you doing? You're feeling a little bit under the weather. It's kind of amazing you're able to do the show this week.
Yeah, this is just an act of sheer willpower. If I'm being entirely honest, I'm still not 100%. I've been battling, I thought it was like a sinus thing. Actually, at first I thought it was like an allergic reaction. I went and our backyard had been kind of out of control for a bit, so I helped my wife mow it and get everything sorted. And then that night I started to get like a really bad headache and started to feel stuffed up, and I was like, oh, maybe it was just from all of the pollen and particles and everything that we stirred up. And then it just continued to get worse the next day, and I'm feeling overall better now, but I'm sore all over. I don't remember having a fever, or I don't feel like I had a fever, but it was overall not fun. Yesterday was my wife's birthday, and I couldn't help celebrate. So her and the boys went with her mom and some cousins, and they had a beautiful day on Lake Michigan. They went to the beach, they had a good time, and I was at home.
Nice. I mean, nice for them,
so,
not for you.
yeah.
But hey, a day on the Great Lakes is never a bad thing. But hopefully we'll be able to make it next time. Thanks for...
Not even illness could keep me away from doing this sealed opening and talking about some of the new updates that we got as well. It's not just our first expansion. That part's exciting, but also it's our first time where we're getting like rules updates and things.
Yeah.
And that also is exciting because it means the game is evolving.
That's right. It's always exciting to me too when we get a new version of the rules doc, because obviously that's a chance for them to kind of clean things up that weren't interacting as smoothly as they've hoped. A way to add new rules on, and then with the new mechanics that are coming in with the new expansion, how do those interact intricately with everything that already exists in the game? We'll talk about that a little bit. That's going to be fun. Before we get there, though, I do feel like we have to talk about Ice Cave Radio merch. If you go to icecaveradio.com, I believe that's our URL, right? I'm right on that, I think.
Yeah, it should be.
Icecaveradio.com. We do this show. We should know our own URL.
Icecaveradio.com, the last time I checked, is our website, and then that has links to a bunch of different things.
That's right, including some clothing and stuff. And check it out. I just got a shipment of our first clothing, including a shirt that I'm very proud of, because Twin Suns is going to be a bigger and bigger format in this game as time goes on. And you know what, Charmer? People are going to make the mistake, and yes, it is a mistake, to try to play it competitively. No. Twin Suns is a for fun format. The 1v1 competition, that's where real card game dueling is at, right? Multiplayer stuff, the CEDH, get that stuff out of here, man. It's casual. So our first statement shirt that I made that you can buy on our website says that. Check it out. See? There it is.
Love this shirt.
Keep Twin Suns casual. It looks great, by the way. Yeah, our printer did a great job, and so you too can fight the good fight and keep casual formats casual and fun, because we're all competing so much in these games anyway. We got to take a chance to decompress, and Twin Suns is such a great game format for doing that. So keep it casual. None of this competitive Twin Suns stuff. Nah, no way. Don't get that stuff anywhere near me, man. Keep Twin Sun casual. Wear the shirt. Spread the word. I'm counting on you.
I adore this shirt. I adore this shirt so much just because it sends the right message, but it's such a simple and elegant design as well. Like, you see it, you know exactly what's going on there.
That's right.
And I agree with the message. I'm really excited to play more Twin Suns with the new expansion, because we have some new leaders that are just spicy, but also some of them pair very well with existing ones when you want to be very thematic. And I love a good thematic pairing. I love new Han paired with Chewie, for example, just because of some of the things that I think they do very well together. I'm looking forward to playing Sabine and Bo-Katan for some Mandalorian fun. Just all sorts of Twin Suns shenanigans on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm playing some Twin Suns tonight with some friends who have not played the game before, and I just made 4 decks. I'm gonna go play it. kind of like a board game. And honestly, I think I really recommend everybody out there to just take a bunch of your commons and uncommons and rares that you don't need, and just like make 4 Twin Suns decks, make them thematic, make them fun, and then just like bring them along and show people the game. I think it's a great way to introduce people into the game too. And the more casually and funly you do it, the better. The more people will be at locals, it'll be great. Anyway, moving on. Again, icecaveradio.com. You can go and buy that shirt among other great shirts as well. We have a really classy one with like a pocket on it and then just the text Ice Cave Radio. Oh, our merch is so good. I may be biased here, but I think we got some good stuff. Just saying. But let's move on. You ready to talk about rules?
Yes, I am very excited to talk about the rules changes because I think that they are great for the game and also very relevant because pre-releases are upon us. I'm going to be attending one this weekend. Very excited about that.
That's right. And let's talk first about this. So there was a change in leader units. Essentially, they used to we kind of refer to them as deploying, right, or flipping. And they didn't enter play per se or leave play for the purposes of cards that interact with that. And it was confusing, right? So the change has come down from on high. And the decision has been made that when leader units enter play, they actually enter play for rules purposes. And when they leave play for rules purposes when defeated as well. Now, right now, and you can find more information in this on an article on the StarWarsUnlimited.com website. They go into a little bit more detail. That's where this paragraph is from. But basically, it only interacts at the moment, pre-set to release, with the Boba Fett leader, the Cunning Boba Fett leader from Spark of Rebellion, and the Boba Fett unit, the legendary one as well, which deals with cards leaving play. Aside from that, it doesn't change anything. Like, I've seen people ask already, does your leader coming into play affect things like Maz Kanata, for instance, in set 2, where when you play a unit, she gets an experience token? No, because playing a card is different from a card coming into play. So something to keep in mind, but I think this is a good change overall, just to keep the game a little bit more, simple and easy to sort of pick up. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that it is going to help with some of the less intuitive rules. So the most common one from set 1 was obviously around the Boba Fett leader, right?
Yeah.
Boba Fett, when you were trying to activate his trigger, for example, and folks were, saying, hey, like, I've defeated your leader. And so, does that count? Does that not count? Mm-hmm. It's going to clean some of that up. I think with the Maz Kanata question, first, I mean, it's a great question. There's no such thing as a bad question, but I think that the easy way to think about that is that the leader unit enters play. So it enters play, but you don't play the unit because you are deploying it with an epic action, right? So even though it is entering play as a unit, it's still not counting as playing a card. Playing a card should almost always be from hand. Now there are some new from the discard pile shenanigans, but even then you are paying a cost, and it's not something that was already on the table in a legal zone like the leader spot, right? So in this instance, with Maz Kanata, deploying your leader would not count as playing a card because you're actually using your epic action to deploy, right?
Right.
But for the purposes of, again, like Boba Fett, if you are defeating something and it's leaving play, or if something says when a unit enters play, do X, Y, Z, it will trigger for those things. And I think that is a good move because, as they said, it's just, I think, more intuitive for new players, and it will reduce confusion. And the game is early enough in its life cycle that making the change now will have less of an impact as opposed to if they try to do this at like
for sure.
7 or something.
Yeah, where there's only a couple of cards that interact with it now. Now's a good time to do it. It's done for simplicity's sake. It doesn't break anything. So I think it's a great change. I think the easy way to remember it is like when you play a card, you announce the card, you pay the costs, and then the card enters play, right? Whereas your leader is already out there, right? It's already there on its leader side. You're using an action to then change this essentially into a unit, which causes it to enter play, but you're not playing the card, if that makes sense. And it does. The way we're saying it makes it sound more confusing, maybe. But never mind. Read the rules. It's easy. Once you play, you'll understand. It's not as bad as we make it sound. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about this.
Dweller could do it.
I know, right? Ator, the Blade Master, though, nah. That's a deep cut MST3K reference. No one's gonna get that. Let's move on to talk about Smuggle. So here are just the specific rules for the Smuggle. You can see things like C there. Playing a card using Smuggle is considered to play a card with the restriction that the card must be, without the restriction that it must be played from hand. So again, if for something that's smuggled out, it will trigger things that are triggered by playing a card. Something to think about. Let's see. What else is on there? I had more things to talk about with the bounty ability. With this, though, let's see. Another one that's important to remember is the card that you are playing, the smuggle card you're playing, can be used to pay for itself. Because you, as it says there, since the card is still in the resource zone while paying costs, a card with smuggle can be exhausted to help pay its own smuggle cost. That's a big one that I hear people ask about a lot, is that if I'm smuggling a card out, can I use it to pay for its smuggle costs? The answer is yes, you absolutely can, and you absolutely should, because otherwise you're just losing a resource for no reason.
Yeah, I will say they didn't call this ability out with the leader change, but I do feel like Smuggle has like a bit of a ripple effect that also could have bled over to there, because I did have some people ask me, before we had the rules, I didn't have an answer for them, but I had some people say, hey, if leaders, when they are in your leader zone and they are deployed, and that's not considering, like entering or leaving play with the old rules.
Sure.
They were like, is that going to be the same thing with Smuggle? Because technically they're in your resource zone. They're on the board, right? So they're just changing zones. And I was like, that's a fair question. Now, obviously, we know from the rules here, they do still count for when played and entering play and all of that.
Yeah.
So I do think that with the introduction of Smuggle, it also makes sense that they cleaned up that leader interaction.
I think a good way to think of it is that your resources are essentially blank cards that just say resource on them, and that is it, right? A smuggle card has that hidden information where if you use it, then suddenly it's a card that's being played, but like the rule says, it isn't burdened by needing to be played from the hand. It can be played from your resource zone. But until it's actually paid for and played, it's essentially just a blank card with the word resource on it.
Yeah.
So I think that helps a little bit. The other thing I hear people ask once in a while is, when you take the card from the top of your deck and put it into play to replace that resource, does it come into play ready or exhausted? All resources will come into play exhausted unless otherwise stated on the card. An example of this is if you play resupply, that is put down exhausted, versus Super Laser Technician that says on the card that it comes into play ready as a resource. So just assume anytime you're adding a resource to your resource zone, it will always come in exhausted initially, unless there's text on whatever's letting you do that says otherwise. And that includes the card that replaces the card that you're smuggling out.
So the only other thing I would point out for this particular rule before we move on is the last part. And that is when you have no cards left in your deck. The rules do state that you don't have to replace your smuggled card, right? It's not a hindrance, because I know Smuggle says like you play the card and then you take the top card of your deck, you put it into play. So obviously the next question is what happens if there's no cards in your deck to do that. It says you can still play the smuggle card, and this is to me the most important bit, it also does not count as an attempted draw.
Yeah.
So you would not take damage. And that is a pretty big deal, I think, in limited formats, because some of these games, if neither player gets off to an aggressive start, I think they could go long, and Smuggle is going to be far more valuable in the late game. And so this is something to consider as far as like your timing for when to play stuff.
Totally agree. Yeah, getting to avoid that damage because you're not drawing a card is important to note. So yeah, a little bit of a breakdown on the Smuggle ability. It's great to see all the technical aspects of the new abilities come through. Let's move on to Bounty. So Bounty is one that people also have a lot of questions about. The big thing I think to recall is or to realize is line C. Bounty resolves in the same window as any when defeated or when captured abilities on the unit. So you can't, have a when defeated help you avoid a bounty happening, and you can't have a bounty happening help you avoid a when defeated. They're all happening in the same window, therefore they all need to be resolved, and the order in which they're resolved relies on who the active player is, basically at the time the bounty is collected per se. The thing that stood out for me in this line or this rules box is that you can choose not to resolve a bounty if you don't want to. Which I didn't know, actually. I thought because the card just says bounty, do this, you always had to do it, when you would be collecting a bounty. But no, you can choose to just not resolve it too, which is interesting. And I like that we have that flexibility. I'm not sure when we'd use it, but I do like that.
Yeah, so it might matter, again, very niche scenarios, but it might matter in instances where, for example, one of the bounties is that you take the top card of your deck and you put it into play as a resource, right?
Price
it's a
on your head, yeah.
Bounty. And so if you were low on cards and you didn't want to strip your deck of resources in a long game, that could be very relevant. And I mean, this is one of those things where now that we see the text in the rules, it's very cleared up right up in section A, where it says when defeated, when captured, an opponent may resolve the following ability. It's just that we didn't have that may so clearly stated until now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's important to note. But I think, again, like the big thing is when the bounties are resolved. And the other thing is the two-player, the more than two players, and again, keeping track of twin sons. You have to choose the person who defeated or captured the unit that had the bounty on it. Important to note. So you can't have a bounty go off and then be like, no, I want that person to get the benefit instead. Has to be the person that actually did it. So, yeah. Anyway, I think a lot of fun things actually look forward to with bounties specifically. And again, I like that the rules associated with this are so flexible. Basically, this game is so great. I'm just gonna say this, like when you read through the rules, everything works just so logically. It's so nice. A lot of games have rule sets where it's like that's how they choose to rule it, and you're like, okay, I mean that's the ruling. I guess we'll go along with that. But so far, everything in Unlimited has played out very logically, which I appreciate.
I think that there's something to be said about. There's fun in simplicity sometimes. Yeah. I know that as card game players, a lot of times we like doing the really complicated things. We love cool combos. We love, seeing lines in the matrix that set things up. But at the end of the day, there's also just something really nice and fun about just having a very clear understanding between both players that this does what it's supposed to do and there's no gray area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really appreciate the attention to detail that they've put into this game.
Yeah, it's like you think about a keyboard, right? It's got a ton of different buttons, but you know exactly what each one is going to do when you press it, And that's complexity and simplicity together. It's wonderful. But speaking of complexity, it's time to break open a pre-release pack that Fantasy Flight Games has sent us.
Don't worry, I do it all the time.
I know. I've been doing that for over a decade at least now. There you go. Shadows of the Galaxy pre-release pack. We're going to crack that open. We're going to build a deck together right here on the broadcast. If you are only listening to the podcast, sorry, this one's probably not going to be as great to listen to. We'll try
to talk through it.
Yeah, we'll try to be as descriptive as we can, but this is just simply going to be one that you're going to want to watch versus listen to. If you're interested in this. So we need to cut to a different shot so we can get a good clear shot of Charmer's desk because you've got there over over there in Michigan, and we will jump into it. Here we are with the who's supposed to talk first? Me?
Well,
you talk first. Are we doing that line from episode 7?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I was going to say through the magic of editing, now we're here, but you know what? Let's just leave it in because I don't want to do that again. I agree. I just want to open this. I'm tired of waiting. So
we're destined to pick Kylo Ren now, I guess. And every cardboard box ever made in the history of mankind, has any one of those things ever torn all the way across? I'm talking not just card stuff, but any box that includes that type of thing. I swear.
I was just about to say the only ones that ever do for me are There are these like microwavable dumplings that I get, and they seem to do it for me. All right, so
Nice.
I wanted to make sure that we were doing this because this is obviously different, right? From our last pre-release. So we still get the deck box, the cardboard deck box. Has one of these. Believe it or not, I love these dividers. I use them in my 4-row boxes for my collection as my separator.
Yeah, same. They actually are super useful for that.
Yeah. I'm still confused because this art, I was so expecting to get a Darth Maul leader with that art, and we never did.
I mean, because that art isn't even on the
Maul
legendary
card.
Darth Maul,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so I guess he's just Maul, not Darth Maul in this. But like, that must mean that there's some sort of alternate art version of him out there. Perhaps organized play, perhaps something else. Intriguing, isn't it?
Very well could be. So we do still get the cardboard tokens, quick start rules, all of that fun stuff that we would expect. That part's all well and good. This is going to be different this time, though. The art on it had kind of given it away for me, but instead of getting the foil versions of leaders, we get hyper foil versions, at least on one side. On the leader side, it's hyper foil.
Yeah.
And then this side, still standard hyperspace. But I really like that they upped it, right? They could have just done foil like the last time where it's foil on one side, but no, it's hyper foil. And again, at pre-release, both of these are playable leaders as well.
It's interesting because in the last one it was alternate art for Luke and Vader, and the reason is because the hyperspace Luke and Vader were Gen Con promos or event promos rather. So they didn't have the event promo this time around for the alternate art. So
I love that because they're hyperfoil, they just completely glare out.
You turn them over.
That is so washed out.
They're only foil on one side, right?
Yeah.
Are they foil on both sides?
No, it's just on the one side, and so like it's not but I think that's just the positioning. As you saw when I was on camera behind me, even with the shades drawn, I just get a lot of sunlight.
We know what they are. It's okay.
Yeah, we know what they are.
We know what they are. We know that you get them.
And when we deck build, I'll make sure that the important stuff here is front and center. So step one at any pre-release, obviously, is to open some packs and then do some sorting. I will
all your packs.
Yeah, we get to open all of our packs, but right out of the gate here, we get a rare leader to consider for our pool. Lando Calrissian.
Lando, probably not one of the best pre-release leaders to choose. Go check out our last episode on pre-release leaders and how to play them.
Actually, here's what we'll do, since it's a little more visible there. We'll put our leaders over there.
I like that. Yeah.
And then for sorting purposes, what I would like to do is we're going to do villainy and then aspects, heroism aspects, and then just the aspects as such, right? So, and then I guess we'll have to do villainy and heroism off aspect here off to the side for now. But like the idea being, right? So like command villainy, command heroism, straight command, just so that we've got, oh, look, a hyperspace Death Watch loyalist.
Nice. Looks good.
Looks really good.
Yeah, I usually do it the same way. It's just the easiest way to separate things and make it easy to parse out, you know, how many of each aspect, each type of aspect I have, because that's really important, right? Is you need to, before you choose a leader, first of all, you need to know, you know, what card pool you have available to you. Oh, is that a hyperspace Forlom?
It's a hyperspace Forlom as well. So we're already very strong in the hyperspace villainy foil villainy card as well. Our rare was the Vambrace Flamethrower. But yes, you're right. This is the same reason that I do it as well, because I like to know what my counts are. Because a lot of times, it's not always the case, but a lot of times, anytime you have like a higher count in areas, you're going to usually have a better card quality just because of the law of large numbers, right? If you've got more options, you're more likely to have good stuff in there. In case in point, right now, if we were just going on pack one, we're very clearly villainy. All right, so Cad Bane. Now that one is a quality.
See, you gotta
leader.
when you open these packs, you gotta open the pack on camera in case there's a showcase. We gotta catch that moment.
Yeah,
I'm just
sorry,
saying.
I'm just
For future
assuming my
reference.
luck will be awful. But you are correct. Yes, I need to be.
But you aren't me. I've
to be
opened
doing that.
13 boxes the first set, soon to be 14
Well,
without a showcase. So
these are not prize packs, so I will not open a showcase.
yeah, fair enough.
Trandoshan Hunter though, so still so far yet to even get a single heroism card that's not a leader. Hey, there we are, finally.
Strong bounty.
Clan Ren Rescuer coming in to rescue our heroism card pool. Neutral, we'll put neutral over here. Liberated slaves.
Right.
Yeah.
And another solo A Star Wars Story card, I believe.
Yeah, but also I really like this
Ooh.
card from a design standpoint. Yeah, client is very solid here.
Very solid. Yeah.
Valiant assault ship.
I almost feel like the client is honestly a potential bomb.
Our rare is a Kragan, and then we get a foil.
I think I'm kind of meh on Kragan. I mean, he's solid stats, 6 for 6/6. I mean, that in itself isn't terrible in limited, but his ability it's okay, but in a limited sense, I don't know, where you're only playing with a 30 card deck and you don't have a lot of real estate for high cost cards. He would not be near the top of my list, at least not at the moment, not off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know that he would be near the top, but like, for example, just 2 packs in, if we're thinking about playing Cad Bane, he does have the all important Underworld, right? So
yeah,
that alone is already relevant. I was just starting to say, I love the design of this because it looks so simple, being that it's got no text, but it's still a 3/5 for 3, and it has a lot of very relevant tribal tags. So as the game goes on, the fact that it's Fringe, Droid, Twi'lek, and Wookiee means it can potentially serve a really important role in a number of decks. So I love flexible design like that. So our next one is a Hondo, and then a hyperspace base.
Nice. Dude, I'm telling you, if I
hyperspace shield token.
Nice. If I pull a Cad Bane, I'm probably just gonna play Cad Bane. I'm very high on Cad Bane stocks right now.
All right, so we got a Moisture Farmer, which would be great if we had a Ray. Take Captain.
I mean, Moisture Farmer. To be fair, though, remember Moisture Farmer is just vigilance. It can be played in heroism or villainy, and that is a ton of healing. So definitely don't shy away from playing that card if you're running vigilance. I think it's quite good.
Clan Challengers.
Okay.
Perhaps I should have
wanted.
I guess I didn't realize how many non-heroism and non-villainy cards there were in this set. I was expecting those to be the bulk, but it really is the other cards that are kind of taking up the most space here. But yeah, we get the Bon Jovi special. Another Criminal Muscle. No Bargain again. So our villainy cards definitely outweighing our other options. We have a Dengar. I see a hyperspace peeking out up here as well.
Ooh, okay. Hey, that's a huge one. All right, dude, we're playing Cad Bane.
Yeah, Lady Proxima.
Massive hit for playing Underworld stuff. She's extremely
Scanning
good.
Officer was the hyperspace option.
Oh, check it out.
Dark
Legendary.
Saber. You know what? It's because we put the mat. We had the mat down.
Yeah, I think so. Wow, that's awesome. I mean, and the fact that that's just command makes it so flexible and so scary and sealed.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't normally run Cad Bane command, but now I'm kind of curious. Now it's like maybe Moff Gideon's on the board. Your pool so far is definitely pushing you in the villainy direction, though. That is for sure.
3 packs in, so we're halfway there. This is very strongly, in my opinion, like I should move this over at this point because we have all of these extra just villainy options, and then the neutral.
Well, there's a big glare on those though, so maybe you want to move them back actually because they're easier to see.
Yeah, I guess.
Move the leaders.
Here's what we'll do. We'll put
the bases. Yeah,
the bases up there because who cares about those, right?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure is it true in Sealed the same way as it is in Draft, where you can grab a base if you
Yes.
say you're missing the basic base for command or something, you can just take one. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, the bases, you can essentially choose whatever color you need. So leader wise, we had another rare leader that's in heroism, and is unfortunately not the best like build around leader for Sealed. So again, leaning us further toward villainy, in my opinion.
Your leader hits have been a little bit awkward so far.
They have. Sure. I mean, honestly, Cad Bane's doing a lot of work for us because the rest have been very mid at best. Price on your head, though, again. So finally, some more heroism support. Village Protectors. This is a card that I think in limited for this set is kind of bonkers because you don't have to worry about making opening.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So
I think you're absolutely right.
Reckless Gunslinger, Rickety Quad Jumper, Weak Way Pirate Gang, and then in Hyperspace Outflank.
Oh, it looks cool. Nice.
Got a lot of command so far. Hey, look, that card's
familiar. We know that card.
We know that
That's
card.
one of our reveal cards, the Bounty Guild Initiate.
Yeah, so we have a lot of command and we have a lot of cunning.
All right.
Slaver's Freighter. Hey, look, another heroism card finally.
Wow. A new adventure.
A new adventure.
Okay. Yeah. Great card for double cunning. Maybe one you run if you're running Cad Bane because it costs 4 and it might be worth it to bounce it with his ability. Something to think about at least.
Yeah, I think for that you would want to look at what's in your pool that you would want to be bouncing.
Exactly.
Evidence of the Crime is our rare. Which is
that actually might be pretty good.
I was just going to say in limited, I think it's actually pretty decent here. And then a Gentle Giant.
Okay.
All right. So 2 packs left.
All right. So far, again, just to kind of recap, definitely push towards villainy with the combination of Cad Bane and the cunning stuff. Seems like you're kind of pushed towards that as well. Good old Gar Saxon. Another villainy option. So we're still very much in the villainy vein here.
Yeah, as far as like playable leaders on the heroism side, it's really just Mando, right?
I mean, at this point, unless these next 2 packs are crazy for heroism, we're just not playing heroism, I would say. You have a lot of neutral cunning stuff, so like maybe you could force it, but go like aggression with it maybe.
Yeah, but I'll be honest, looking at this pool, the only 2 heroism leaders that even potentially save this would be Fennec or Ray. And it's Fennec because we already have so much cunning, or Ray because now that we've got a second Village Protectors, there's a potentially, I think, enough support here, but
I would say too, I don't know if we have enough upgrades to effectively run Mandalorian with this pool. There's another one, so maybe we'll have enough by the end, but on first glance, that's something we'll have to think about for Mandalorian as well.
Gamorrean Retainer. Hey, look. Hyperspace Slaver's Freighter.
Very nice.
Twin Pod Cloud Card. Close to pod racing.
That's right. Now this is close to pod racing.
Principled Outlaw. Finally finding some heroism stuff there. Frontier Trader.
Too little too late.
Yeah, too little too late. Heavy Fighter, which I actually kind of like.
I think it's a pretty solid card, yeah.
Sonara, who I am personally still very high on. A second Katsu.
Okay.
Legal Authority. I think this card is actually really good in limited.
Totally agree. Yeah, just being able to snag one of your opponent's cards for so cheap.
And because it buffs the thing that is like doing the capturing, it makes it that much harder for them to get rid of it as well. So
totally, yeah. Hey, McClunky. Actually, that's a great foil. I mean, now it's like that's another just fantastic Cad Bane card. So yeah, I mean, again, I've got a little bit of Cad Bane bias. I'm not gonna lie, I think he's super strong. But I think right now leader choices, you're looking between Cad Bane and Gar Saxon.
All right, so the only way we're not selecting Cad Bane or Gar Saxon is if this is a showcase, because the rule is
or a Ray.
You always play the showcase if you pull it, right? Like that's the rule.
Sure.
Oh, it is a Fennec
though.
Oh,
it's the Fennec Shand though. All right. Oh,
It
I mean,
is
this is one where we'll have to look at what we've got and see if we have enough stuff we'd want to ambush in. You know.
right, right. So we'll be looking for on plate abilities. You know, just kind of thinking out loud, right? Some grit stuff where you can power them up because of the ambush potentially,
Yeah.
but they have to be small enough, right? So like this one doesn't help because it costs 6, and you need it to be that cost 4 or less. So we will have to look. I think still in agreement with you though. Gar Saxon and Cad Bane both look potentially our strongest bet so far.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, Cargo Juggernaut is another like great thing you could add into Cad Bane, or not Cad Bane, into Gar Saxon, because that heal is massive and limited.
Yeah.
Daring Raid is actually a really nice pickup if we're thinking about the possibility of Cad Bane with aggression, but interesting.
Warzone Lieutenant. Hey, Smuggler, our first Just Heroism card.
That is
the
wild,
honorable
actually.
mention over there.
The the dark side is just in this sealed set.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
another
new adventure. But we are so hard into the dark side.
Oh yeah.
I still think that this card is very flexible, because for the low cost of 1, even just exhausting something is good, and then with the upside of getting something back.
Yeah, don't forget that it exhausts too. I think that's a great call out.
Casca Reeves was our rare.
Okay.
But you got a foil maul.
Check it out. Yeah, foil maul. Not bad.
So
man, do we play like command Cad Bane? Darksaber, Maul, there's some big bombs.
So
and then
here's the interesting thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that it is a strong consideration. The biggest question will be whether or not we have a good enough underworld count. The other option could be Command Gar Saxon, because as you said, with Darksaber and with some of the other things, we might be able to get a lot out of the Gar Saxon buff, potentially.
Yeah, and remember, Gar Saxon does put that it does put that tax on your opponent too, in that if they want to put bounties on your stuff, they're just buffing your stuff as well.
Yeah. All right, so I think we're both in agreement that I can just take all of the heroism cards and pull them off the screen now, because
we're not running that. Yeah,
we're not running it. And even more so, I don't think any of these are ones that you would want to pay the tax on.
Exactly, because the only leader we'd be running this with is Fennec Shan, potentially.
Right. So with that in mind, I'm just going to pull them off. Similarly here, we're going to grab our heroism leaders now.
I will say, I think if you really, really love the Mandalorian and you wanted to run Mandalorian, we've got like enough stuff to make it playable. It wouldn't be great, but it would be playable. But I would not recommend it. We're, the obvious answer and the correct answer here is to go villainy and either go Cad Bane or Gar Saxon.
Yeah, I think actually it's worth saying this in particular. If you just have something you really want to play, at the end of the day, have fun, right? We are approaching this strictly from a, like, if you wanted to, win your event, what's the most calculated way to do so? So, yeah. All right. Yeah. Quick recap on what we had here. Bounty neutral, which is actually not terrible because it's an experience token up to 2 units. So again, with Gar Saxon, could potentially be really strong. Proxima, fantastic with Cad Bane. We're going to have to see whether we have enough bounty hunters to consider this. And then this, probably not going to make the cut, but it is, nice with the restore as like an emergency, hey, you can jam it in option.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it's going to kind of come down to is that do we have more bounty hunter enablers? Then we lean towards Gar Saxon. Do we have more underworld enablers? Then we lean towards Cad Bane. I think that's what it's going to be. I will theorize that the combination of having Darksaber not really, just be good stats and not really rely on Mandalorian stuff, plus Maul pushes us in the Cad Bane route. But let's see. I'm curious to see how this is all going to break down. I think we should also look at Cad Bane aggression as well. As a potential option.
We also, the only so the only reason I was still kind of taking a long look anyway at Gar Saxon here is that Maul is Underworld, so obviously he helps the Cad Bane. But we do have obviously we have the Darksaber, but we do also have Legal Authority, which is another fantastic upgrade. And we had where was it? I thought we had something else in there, but maybe not. Maybe.
What were you looking for?
Oh, I think it was in here. There was another upgrade that was for your own units that I remembered. Yeah, so we had grapple shot, and then technically, like if you're using it to steal somebody's upgrade, then we have this as well.
Yeah, very true.
So we have some upgrades, but when we look at the other side,
the Darksaber, if it's played on a Mandalorian, ignores aspect penalties. That's potentially important if we decide there's like, Gar Saxon blue yellow or something, but still want to use the Darksaber because we have Mandalorians, and also you get the on attack benefiting Mandalorians. So again, I think the stats are good enough that you just play it even if you're not going Mandalorians in your running command, but obviously you get a lot more benefit if you do have a Mandalorian package in there.
So thinking about it from that standpoint, where if you have just Darksaber, but you want to say, let's look at like Gar Saxon Red. If you're playing aggression at all, I think Daring Raid goes in.
Definitely.
But we also have, in terms of Mandalorians, right? We have the Clan Challengers.
Wait, we have 2 Hunting Nexu? I think that card is actually pretty good for limited.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It hits hard.
I think those go in. Yeah. Oh, and 2 Clan Challengers too, huh? Interesting.
Well, and then even going up further in terms of further Mandalorians, we have a couple of Death Watch Loyalists.
Dude, all right. My mind is kind of changed at this point. We have a lot of the important thing is doubles of things. We have a really good amount of consistency in aggression for Mandalorians. So looking at blue-red Gar Saxon, and you can totally throw the Darksaber in there because, again, you ignore the aspect penalty. If it's played on a Mandalorian unit, that sounds quite good. But let's look at. We need to see we haven't blue and yellow yet, though.
So blue. So this is what I think hurts Gar Saxon. Blue. Those 2 are great with a Gar Saxon. The rest. Mm-hmm. Like Cargo Juggernaut could be good, but the problem is you need another blue unit to really take the advantage of, and this is it for our blue pool.
Yeah, I'd run the Moisture Farmer. What do we have?
We would run it, but if you're talking about consistency stuff, right? So we do have 2 Super Commando squads, and the Client, so those help. But and then
Super Commando squads, those are just Imperial, right? Those aren't Mandalorian?
No, they are Mandalorian as well. They are Imperial Mandalorian troopers.
Oh, well.
They are, I think, a fantastic card for limited.
Yeah. Totally.
So we do have those. This card is, playable for sure.
Dude, put Moisture Farmer down there. I'm telling you, it's such a good card.
I'm just kind of going through. So the problem is like we probably have enough blue to play it. We just don't, like, we have to run everything. We don't have a lot of, like, if we wanted to trim it sort of thing.
Don't forget the neutrals as well. Throwing the twin pod cloud car in there just for a little bit more space is okay.
Yeah. So I do think we have enough to run Gar Saxon, but I want to revisit some of those other colors through the Cad Bane lens here in a minute, because we have a lot of, in my opinion anyway, a lot of good Underworld stuff in yellow. And then when we go back through some of these, there's also decent Underworld stuff in the other colors as well. So
I think just in straight up only villainy too, if I recall correctly, we have some decent Underworld stuff.
Yeah. So the new adventure stuff would be kind of dependent on some of the others. This is not great. I think this card would warrant consideration, just because it's a space unit, but
Space is going to be at a premium in this this set. I feel like there's not a ton of space, and I mean there always seems to be a little bit less space than ground, but this one especially.
But in terms of underworld stuff that we've got, right? So just in yellow, and before we even get to the villainy stuff, 2 criminal muscles, which are fantastic, especially with the McClunky as well. Fennec Shand, the
really
unit,
good card.
really good card, also there. Look the Other Way is something you and I are both a fan of, because doing something for 0 is always great. Wanted is, if we needed the bounty stuff, potentially playable, but otherwise I'm not super big on it. This though, because of the when played, I'm a big fan of it.
Don't discount Cards of Smuggle as well, because when you're playing this weekend, people are not going to be thinking a lot about Smuggle yet, and so you're probably going to be able to surprise a lot of people just by playing a card with Smuggle, because they'll be like, "Oh yeah, that's in this."
So from an
people
underworld lens, all of that stuff fits. This is probably still something that would make the cut, because it's a 5/6 Saboteur for 5, which is great.
Yeah.
Forlom, also underworld, right?
For sure, yeah.
Both of the Slavers Freighters, underworld, and Hunter of the Haxan Brood, underworld, right? So just in terms of like yellow underworld support, we already have like a good chunk here.
Do we have 10 or more? Because I feel like with Gar Saxon, you probably want like minimum 10 to 12 underworld cards in a 30 card deck.
When you say Gar Saxon or Cad Bane?
I meant Cad Bane. I meant Cad Bane.
Well, so that's just it. Not just in yellow, but you're going to notice, because I noticed when I was looking through green specifically, we actually have a lot of underworld stuff over there as well. So just in our yellow, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 just in yellow. So I'm going to set that there real quick. And then if we go here, this is another one, right?
Oh,
so
that's a good one too,
10.
Yeah.
Hutz Hatchman, not great, but if we need underworld, that could be 11.
I mean, 4 for a 3/4
is definitely
shielded,
a level.
Right? Oh, 4 for a 3/4 shielded is annoying to deal with in limited too.
Yeah. So the maybe side for the villainy, I'm just going to set here, but for sure 2 more playable that are both underworld there just with the villainy. Now I want to highlight what I was kind of seeing in command, right? Pirate Battle Tank is underworld, and it has Sentinel, and it has Smuggle, and we have 2 of them. So those are 2 solid inclusions. Maul is underworld, right?
Really good bomb in limited, I would say.
And so again, if you're playing command at that point, these both go in my opinion, just because they're good independently.
Agreed.
So then going through here, so this doesn't have underworld, but I'm actually a big fan of it just because of the on attack and the overwhelm. You can really get a lot of value out of your ground units, especially the weenies, by just using them to power this up. It can be very annoying. So for now, I'm just going to kind of set that over here as like a potential maybe. But we do have Gamorrean Retainer, which is underworld and gets that neat Sentinel bit.
So 2 for a 3 too, so it trades well if you play it on the first turn.
Outflank is, I still think, it actually a really strong card just in general.
In a format where Leia doesn't exist, being able to attack with 2 units is going to be a rare premium.
Yep. Weequay Pirate Gang, so ambush, but has Smuggle and is, again, underworld. So if we want to play ramp, this is here. So I'll just for now kind of set it there because I think it's playable but not necessary. Scanning Officer, I actually really like just because it's 2 for a 2/3 with semi-relevant on play. But it's not underworld, so for now I'll just put it in the playable maybe.
I want to make a comment about Scanning Officer real quick too, is that again in a format where each deck is only 30 cards, playing that late game and even eliminating like 2 or 3 Smuggle cards, first of all, means your opponent can't play them, but secondly, you're that much farther into their deck and they're that much farther to being out of cards.
Correct.
So I think in limited, that Scanning Officer is definitely something to consider including.
Take Captive, I think is decent removal, right?
Yep.
Bounty Hunter's Quarry. So this one is, I think, still potentially really strong. I know we don't have a lot of bounty interactions, but the idea of like, hey, I get to search and play a unit for free, well, not for free. You have to pay one, right? But still really, really strong. Again, potentially ramp here, but we have a second take captive. Moment of Glory, I'm like, kind of, I'm not. You have to take a whole action and it's just for the one phase. So like this could be, I think, still playable if you're trying to burst somebody down, but I'm not high on it.
Well, the other thing you have to think about with Moment of Glory too is it's playable in a sense where if there's a unit you really want to live and you know they're going to attack it next turn, you can play that on it to then thwart their next attack, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a card that would be like near the top of my list for, okay, if we need to fill more spots, it's going in.
And then the last two cards, again, potential failure card is just the one for the 2/2. But we did also have the Discerning Veteran, which is got the capture on a body, which I think is relevant. It's also a bounty hunter, so it's not quite Underworld, but if we did decide to run Initiate, for example, at least counts there. But just like looking at this then, if we're talking about, you know, not just Underworld cards, but playable cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And again, at this, so 13, 14, if we add these in, I'm just going to add in the ones that would be like for sure playable before we even got into the maybes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're already at 14, and so then it would be 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So we would have a solid, in my opinion, 26 cards.
That's really good. Oh, and Lady Proxima. Don't forget 27.
Yeah, so 27. And then I think a healthy number of maybes to consider if we did this with Cad Bane. Then again, just to revisit what our Underworld count would be, combining it with the command, right? So we got 1, 2, 3. This is an Underworld card as well. It does count, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Isn't that 13? Or did I count wrong?
I can go back and double check. Lady Proxima is definitely one here. Actually, I'll just pile them up real quick.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a tactic. That's just a bounty. That's a tactic. We have Underworld, tactic, Underworld, Mandalorian, Law, opposite of Underworld. But our total Underworld count so far is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So over half of the deck would be Underworld.
That's really good. Nearly 2/3 of the deck. Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a lot of Mandalorians. I think if you really love Gar Saxon, you could play that. But I do think our cards are heavily indicating we should be playing Cad Bane with Command.
Game. I agree. I think that there is enough here to have a playable, like red, blue Gar Saxon deck, and then you would still throw in the Darksaber, obviously. But I think right now, when we look at our card quality overall, we're pretty heavily leaning this kind of green cunning villainy with Cad Bane, and then we would still have 3 slots that we could add into, right? So thinking about what those last 3 slots would potentially be here. Let me pile everything up.
Am I wrong or right in that basically all of your other cards are your sideboard in Sealed?
Yeah, in Sealed that is the case.
I believe you can. Yeah, so I would say that is our 27 card core, and then then the other stuff is kind of like flexible depending on what your opponent
it's always
is
flexible.
Be, you know?
I believe my understanding though is that you're supposed to start with the same 30.
Yeah, you have to make like a 30 card initial thing, but like when we do, whatever 3 cards we add, those are going to be like the first ones to get changed. And I do like putting the 2 price on your heads in there. That would be near the top of my list, I would say.
Oh, interesting. So I was going to suggest that they go in the sideboard and then you bring them in against slower decks.
You could. At the
If
same time,
only because we have a relatively low curve. We have a
I don't
couple.
know. There's a lot of fives and up.
Well, so we have a couple of 6s, but they have smuggle, right? We have 2 7s between Fennec and Maul. And then, yeah, we do have some 5s, but the rest of it is like 4 and under. And even the 5s we have, like, this isn't one that you're necessarily always going to want to play on curve if you want to save it to use it as like removal on a body. So I don't know. I was leaning toward like our curve looks to me smaller than it might appear.
My philosophy on it is, and I think this is it's subjective, right? I mean,
yeah, obviously. This is the
I don't know if there's a right
most
or
fun part of the video is where we argue about the last 3
Yeah.
slots.
I won't say you're wrong to not include them. At the same time, I think in a limited format, if you have a chance to ramp, you take it. Because if your Cad Bane leader comes out and you have effectively a 4/8 on the board before your opponent's leader comes out, or you get your Maul 1 turn faster, your Fennec 1 turn faster, like those are game-winning moves, right? So I see price on your head, and I'm like, well, this is just a card that's going to win me games.
Well, if this was a resupply, I don't disagree with you. My biggest issue with this is that it's not just ramp. It is ramp.
I mean,
that you have to play this on something and then find a way to defeat it. And in those early stages of the game,
wait, let me interrupt you and say this card is much better than people think it is, because you don't have to find a way to defeat the unit. You can put it on a unit that you know they want to attack with. And suddenly, it's basically like an entrench at the worst, and at best, they continue their attack and trade, and you get the resource. So, like, that's another way to think about it, is instead of just, how can I put it on a unit that I will kill, think, how can I put it on a unit that will definitely die by some manner, and I can put my opponent in a more awkward position by putting it on there, you know? So I think this card is extremely, like, crazy flexible.
It is very flexible. I think my biggest issue with it, and that's what I was actually just getting ready to say, is that in those early turns when you're trying to, in my opinion anyway, I think the best way to establish dominance with Cad Bane is to play as much underworld stuff as you can early so that your damage starts to pile up and you snowball. And I think that the biggest thing that hurts price on your head, in my mind, is that we're on Cad Bane, right? So if my choices are like, I can play an underworld unit or I can make things awkward for them, I feel like most of the time I'm probably going to want to play the unit because I'm still expanding my board and taking advantage of Cad Bane. I don't dislike the card, and I definitely think it's incredibly strong. I was just thinking, like, in terms of consistency for my deck, I liked the idea of just running 3 more units, one of them being Underworld, one being, a turn 1 play, and one being space.
What's our breakdown? This is another thing we should look at too, is what's our breakdown of units versus events and upgrades.
So units versus events and upgrades. So this will be events and upgrades over here real quick, and then we'll do units here.
We have 2 take captives. That's so good.
Yeah, we have 2 take captives. And now the rest of these minus McClunky should all be units because these were all of our underworld options. Yes. All right. So quick count for units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 units so far. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 non-unit cards.
I like the 2/3 unit, 1/3 event kind of as the general thing to shoot for in limited. What do you think?
So again, this is probably a matter of taste. I personally prefer slightly more units. I usually try to aim for like 3/4 units because I never want a situation where I just don't have anything to play. Now, it's less likely to happen in this set because we do also have Smuggle and we have some other things, but I am just very much like, consistency is king, especially in limited formats where you're already naturally inconsistent. And I would rather feel like I always can put something on the board as opposed to not. Maybe I'm overly cautious, but it served me well in set 1, so I try to stick with that.
I agree that if you're going to decide between more units or more events, it's probably safer to decide more units. That said, I think if you have really good events and units that aren't as impactful, then you might want to lean event heavy. But I do agree that if you are on the fence and you're not sure in the moment, it's probably safer just to err on the side of more units.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, like if I'm being entirely honest, I don't even think we're arguing about the last 3 slots. So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're really arguing about the last 2 slots. I think that this is good enough that you always play it because it's a turn 1 drop at worst, but also just has that really big impact. And so then it just comes down to like, do you want to run the 2 price on your heads, or do you want to run 2 more units or a mix? And I'm okay with any of those. The units, the pros are we get an underworld unit and or a space unit, and then obviously you get the benefit of the price on your head. And so ultimately,
I think you can run into it the way that you were thinking, where if it's a more aggressive matchup, then you run the units. If it's a slower matchup, then you run the price on your head. I don't think that's a bad way to look at it.
And so with that in mind, let me continue to make more room. Because for the benefit of our audio listeners, I do want to do a final read off of where we landed. So we have Cad Bane, and we did open one. Okay, so I'll at least put it up here for visual posterity as well. We have a green base with our Cad Bane. And then in the event/upgrade section, sort these because we do have 2 of those.
I will say, I think our deck would win a sealed tournament.
I mean, it does look
that good.
It does look pretty good when you look at. We have some good bombs, right? Some good power spikes.
Yeah.
In the pool between Maul, between the Dark Saber, those kind of like either top end or end game type threats that you want. We have decent removal options with the 2 take captives. We have the 1 discerning veteran. Kragan can still potentially be annoying as well, but also we've got a pretty consistent early game. We've got Fennec, Forlom to help with removal on bodies. I'm actually still a very big fan of Pirate Tank for this list as well.
Yeah, totally agree. I feel like I see this and I need to, because I've been doing some testing lists with Cad Bane aggression, and now this makes me actually want to go back and take a closer look at command. But I like it. I'm kind of sad that like we're seeing this deck now instead of like this being my seal, this being my pre-release kit this weekend. I'm like, no, this is what I want to open this weekend.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way, because like I want to showcase what we have here, but I also am trying to remember to also highlight things like our space units, because I think that's also a relevant thing. So I'm kind of reorganizing some of this on the fly.
Yeah, I think while we talk about this, one of the interesting things with playing Cad Bane that I want to mention that I don't know if we mentioned in the video is I think a lot of times you kind of want to go second with Cad Bane, which is one of the first leaders in the game you'd ever really want to do that with. But just the ability to, on turn 1 of the game, have them play a unit, then you play your Underworld unit and do a damage to their unit, gives you that little edge right off the bat where, when they attack the next turn, maybe they don't trade as efficiently, things like that. So I think there's a real, argument for thinking about going second as Cad Bane, which I feel like by default in Spark of Rebellion, you just kind of always want to go first because you always want to be the person to, usually have the initiative on the second turn. I think Cad Bane's very good about playing when you do not have the initiative.
Yeah, see, I thought I wanted to put him out this way because this was the other thing that was like kind of going around in the back of my brain. So the other reason that I like the idea, so these are our maybes down here that we could go either way, but the other reason that I was leaning toward at least including this is we only have 3 space units.
Yeah. Which, in that case, I think you would definitely put the heavy fighter in there. And I think a lot of people are going to be light on space units.
Yeah, I agree. The biggest reason that I wanted to highlight it, though, is one of our best removal options, the take captive, is it has to be in the same arena. So ensuring that you get some kind of presence out there, I think, is important. Now, the good news is the Slaver's Freighter that we have 2 of, it's got 5 health on it. So for a 5-drop, that's pretty resilient. But ultimately, yeah, just kind of like thinking that through, we are very, very good on the ground. And then we are kind of relying on Cad Bane's incidental damage to help us take care of the space. Now, that's the good news, is that if we, again, continue to just make sure we're jamming Underworld stuff, and then we use our good units that we have to assert dominance on the ground, then that almost guarantees the incidental damage would have to go onto the unit in space, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's another thing to consider.
Unit. Doesn't specify ground unit. So I think that's a good shout out too, is that his ability can theoretically be a way to gain a little bit of damage in space.
So I would say for our initial, I would do 1 price, just cut the difference, and then the 1 heavy fighter. And then, as we were saying, depending on your matchup, you can swap out price for a henchman if they're more aggressive, or if they're slower, swap out something for that second price on your head as like your first go-tos for options. And then I would also, I was going to say, I would also consider some of these other options. This one as well, just because that's another space unit, and the Restore. So I want to add that to our honorable mention for sideboarding in here.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that this is a really decent pool, all things considered.
Good. Just getting I think when you look at it, you look at the combination of just very solid early game units paired with Cad Bane's ability, and then you're coming in later game with the tanks, with Maul, with Fennec Shan. You've just got such good closers, and you even have a McClunky, which is a huge card for limited in this set. Just 1 for 3, and you get to play another card and get another Cad Bane damage. So it is wild.
Well, and it's McClunky with the Criminal Muscle, which also with so many like upgrades and experience tokens and shields and things floating around, that Criminal Muscle is a fantastic card because, like, it's a 1-drop and you can play it early, but it still has a lot of value late with the when played. So using something like McClunky on that, where you can also then cheaply redeploy it and get extra value out of that, is so interesting and just overall really good. McClunky is Underworld itself as well. So like, you could also choose to not replay. Yeah, you'd get the damage from that, and you could choose to not replay that and save it for later as well. That's another important bit to remember.
Well, the thing to keep in mind too is that with Cad Bane, you don't need to do the damage on the first Underworld thing you play every turn. You can choose to exhaust him or not. So if you decide your 1 damage from Cad Bane would be better off later in the turn, because you know you're going to play more than 1 Underworld thing, you can wait. So I think that's another key to playing Cad Bane well, is knowing when to exhaust him and get that 1 damage. It's not always going to be the very first opportunity every turn.
Right. Like, so that's another great example where with the Criminal Muscle, because it's such a cheap Underworld trigger, same thing with Lady Proxima, you can bait somebody, right? If they have an empty board, you could play an Underworld unit and then they'd be like, okay, it's safe, right?
Yeah.
And then hit him with the second one and then exhaust Cad Bane. Lady Proxima is also so good in this list because we're so heavy on Underworld that for a neutral card, she feels like an absolute bomb.
Yeah, Lady Proxima is extremely strong in the constructed sense when you're playing Cad Bane, but also in a limited sense because she's playable first turn. She's a 0 for 4. if nothing else, you have to think of Lady Proxima as like 4 extra health on your base, because if you're playing an Underworld deck, they must get rid of her. They have to respond to her in some way, and either that's a card from hand she's going to soak up, or more likely it's going to be attacks from units on board, which, you know, again, essentially is more health on your base. So yeah, Lady Proxima is an extremely good card.
All right. Well, I think we're pretty much settled on our list. Do you want me to go ahead and do a read through for the audio listeners on where we landed?
Go for it.
All right. So
go for it.
Ultimately, given our pool here, and again, if you're listening on the audio and you want to see everything, highly recommend coming to the YouTube video. But we landed on, we're playing Cad Bane as our leader because everything we opened just pointed in that direction. We're playing it with a green base. So in space, we have 2 copies of Slaver's Freighter, 1 Smuggler's Starfighter, and then the Kirax Heavy Fighter that we're opting to play just because we're low on space. But the good news is on ground, we're very dominant. So we're going to start with the expensive units and then work our way down. Top end of our curve, we have Fennec Shand and Maul, both great pulls. We have 2 copies of Pirate Battle Tank. So again, as a reminder, that is the Sentinel Underworld unit that also has Smuggle. So it does a lot of work for us in this list. We also opened a Kragan Gore, who is just a quality 6/6 for 6 Underworld. Also can give out some shields if people decide to attack your base for some reason while he's on the board. We're also running Resourceful Pursuers, largely just because it's 5 for a 5/6 and has Saboteur. So pretty good stats and keyword. 1 Discerning Veteran gives us that capture on a body. Continuing down in the 4 costs, we have Forlom. We have a Chain Code Collector, Weequay Pirate Gang, and then in the 3 slot, we're a little light on 3s, but that's fine because we also have a fair number of 1s, so that helps us. But we do just have Hunter of the Haxan Brood. In the 2 slots, we have a Gamorrean Retainer, a Ruthless Assassin, and a Scanning Officer. And then in the 1 slot, we have Lady Proxima and 2 Criminal Muscles. And then as far as non-unit cards go, we have 2 copies of Take Captive, again, very strong. A Look the Other Way, which is great at tying your opponent up for free. A Legal Authority, which is another great removal card. We really got lucky with our rares, to be honest, because when you're looking at this list, we have a lot of playable rares. Speaking of playable rares, we also have a playable legendary. We are running the Darksaber, because worst case scenario, it's still a lot of extra stats on our stuff. We also are running, choosing in the main deck anyway, to run 1 Price on Your Head. That's going to be one of our flex spots we'll talk about in a minute. We got a McClunky, which is, again, great with our Underworld setup. Outflank, because attacking with 2 units is great. And a Bounty Hunter's Quarry to potentially give us, a close to free unit. It costs 1, but we get to play a unit for, 3 or less for free when we get the trigger. Right. So we're up trading there. And then our honorable mention slots over here, we have an additional Price on Your Head, so we can run up to 2 if we want, if we're running into a slower deck. So games 2 and 3, you could side an extra 1 in. If they're a bit more aggressive, we have a couple of other options. We do have a Hutt's Henchman. That's mostly there because it's got the Underworld tag. It is a shielded unit, can help you with some trades, but really we're just trying to get that trigger. Or if you need some more space presence, we have the Twin Pod Cloud Car, which is a 2/2 body in space and also has Restore 2 on it. So if you're running into an aggressive deck that doesn't have a lot of space presence, it ends up being fantastic, right? You get all of the Star Viper benefits, but without needing initiative, right? You just take a hit on stats, but still very playable, especially in limited. And so overall, I'm really happy with this. I hope I open something very similar when I play this weekend.
Same, man. Well, that was really fun. Just getting to talk through that, getting to look at what the packs contain. Hopefully that gives everybody out there a good sort of sense of how to go about building a sealed deck and kind of what to look for, what ratios to sort of think about. That was a ton of fun. All right, well, that about does it for our close look at a pre-release box. Again, thanks to Fantasy Flight Games for sending that out to us. It was a ton of fun to go through it, build a deck. The only tragic thing is that we don't get to play this deck in an actual sealed event because I think it'd be quite good. But on that note, Charmer, best of luck this weekend in your pre-release stuff. I know we're both going to be posting about it when we're out there slinging cards. But until then, I'm sure you have one more thing to add before we close out, right?
May the Force be with you.